It was just past midnight when a wave of panic swept through Seoul's entertainment circles. Reports began surfacing that actress Son Ye-jin had been rushed to the emergency room in what insiders described as a dangerously unstable condition. Almost immediately, the atmosphere across social media shifted. What had begun as small whispers quickly erupted into a full-blown frenzy as fans begged for updates, terrified of what might be happening to one of Korea's most beloved stars. Emergency vehicles were seen arriving at the medical center in Gangnam, and several eyewitnesses described Hyun Bin arriving shortly afterward, visibly shaken, his steps hurried, his face pale. For a moment, it felt as though the entire country was holding its breath. Those who were present near the emergency wing recalled a haunting image. Hyun Bin standing silently at the entrance, unable to speak, his hands trembling as he tried to obtain information from the medical staff. None of the hospital employees were allowed to reveal details, and their discreet, serious expressions only fueled the growing fear. One witness described the moment Yeonbin saw Ye-jin being wheeled in on a stretcher, he reportedly froze, then covered his mouth with both hands as if trying to suppress the wave of emotions crashing over him. The rumor that she was unconscious traveled quickly, intensifying the sense of crisis. Inside the hospital, doctors and nurses moved swiftly, pushing the actress through the bright corridors toward an urgent care zone. She was set to be hooked up to oxygen mask, her complexion pale, her breathing shallow. Around her, medical staff were calling out numbers, adjusting equipment, preparing medication. The image of Son Ye-jin, so often seen glowing on red carpets and smiling brightly at fan events, lying motionless under harsh hospital lights, was enough for fans to send into a state of shock. Online platforms overflowed with worried comments, and hashtags about her condition surged in multiple countries within minutes. Meanwhile, Hyun Bin was ushered into a consultation room where he waited anxiously for updates. Staff members reported seeing him pacing repeatedly from one end of the room to the other, occasionally stopping to lean against the wall with his face buried in his hands. At one point, he was overheard asking the staff in a trembling voice whether she had collapsed from sudden cardiac complications or some other severe illness. Though the doctors avoided giving immediate answers, their expression remained grave, which only intensified his panic. Those few minutes felt like an eternity. As the night dragged on, more details began emerging. According to one insider, Son Ye-jin had collapsed unexpectedly at home earlier that evening. She had reportedly complained of dizziness and difficulty breathing before falling to the floor. When Yeonbin discovered her, he immediately called emergency services, staying by her side and attempting to keep her conscious until the ambulance arrived. But as they rushed to the hospital, her condition reportedly worsened and her responses became weaker. For a couple who rarely displays vulnerability in public, this sudden crisis revealed just how fragile life can be. Back inside the hospital, Yeonbin was finally brought into the treatment area after nearly an hour of waiting. The image that greeted him caused him to break down completely. Ye-jin was lying still, her oxygen levels being monitored, doctors working around her bedside, and machines emitting steady, rhythmic beeps. A nurse described the moment Yeonbin approached her. His voice cracked as he whispered her name, lightly touching her hand as if afraid she might slip away. Witnesses said tears streamed down his face when he thought no one could see him, the overwhelming fear of losing her leaving him momentarily unable to stand. Doctors eventually called him into a more private room where they began discussing her symptoms in detail. Yeonbin reportedly braced himself for the worst. The exhausted look in the head doctor's eyes suggested something serious, and Yeonbin's breath caught in his throat as he waited for the verdict. Everything in the room felt unbearably heavy. Outside, fans continued refreshing their phones, praying for good news. When the doctor finally delivered the explanation, Yeonbin's reaction was immediate and deeply emotional. For a moment, he didn't speak. He simply stared at the specialist, then slowly exhaled a long, trembling sigh. The tense atmosphere dissolved all at once, replaced by a flood of relief so intense that he had to sit down. The truth, as it turned out, was far different from what everyone had feared. The doctor explained that Son Ye-jin had not suffered a life-threatening disease, nor was she facing any kind of irreversible condition. Instead, she had been battling an untreated severe cold for several days, all while continuing with intense filming schedules, long commercial shoots, and multiple rehearsals. Combined with a significant lack of rest and a recent series of sleepless nights, her immune system had weakened dramatically. The collapse had been caused by extreme fatigue, dehydration, and stress overload, which had triggered a sudden drop in blood pressure, making her appear as though she were in a critical state. Yeonbin closed his eyes and let out a shaky laugh mixed with leftover tears. The doctor reassured him that, although she needed to be monitored closely, her condition was completely reversible with proper care. She merely required rest, fluids, and a period of complete recovery. The critical appearance had been the result of exhaustion rather than a severe illness. When Yeonbin heard this, he covered his face with both hands, overwhelmed with gratitude and relief. Later, when he returned to Ye-jin's bedside, she had regained some consciousness. Yeonbin sat beside her quietly, holding her hand gently, whispering to her about how frightened he had been. Even in her weak state, Ye-jin reportedly managed a faint smile, squeezing his hand in reassurance. Those who saw the moment described it as deeply moving. Two people who had weathered years of challenges together, showing raw, genuine emotion in the privacy of an emergency room. It was a reminder that even stars who seem untouchable still face exhaustion and vulnerability like everyone else. By dawn, her vital signs had stabilized, and doctors confirmed she was no longer in danger. Yeonbin stayed with her the entire night, refusing to leave until she was transferred to a recovery suite. Hospital staff noted how he adjusted her blanket, checked her temperature, and gently stroked her hair as she slept. It was a quiet, intimate moment far from the glamour of film sets and cameras, a display of care that melted the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. In the end, the terrifying night that shook fans and stirred panic across social networks turned out to be a false alarm, but one that served as a stark reminder of the pressures celebrities face and the toll constant work can take on even the strongest individuals. Son Ye-jin is expected to make a full recovery after proper rest, and both she and Yeonbin are said to be planning some time away from work to ensure she regains her strength completely. What started as a frightening emergency ultimately became a touching story of love, vulnerability, and relief. By the late afternoon of the following day, the atmosphere surrounding the hospital had completely changed. The frantic chaos from the previous night was replaced by a quiet sense of relief as official updates confirmed that Son Ye-jin's condition had stabilized and she was now fully conscious. Although she still looked visibly exhausted, she was reportedly able to speak clearly and even engage in brief conversations with the nurses. One staff member revealed that she apologized for causing trouble, a remark that instantly warmed the hearts of fans when it was shared online. Despite the ordeal, she retained her gentle manner, thanking every nurse who checked her vitals and responding softly to their instructions. The medical team, now far more relaxed, expressed confidence that she would recover completely within a few days as long as she continued resting. This glimpse of calm brought tremendous comfort to the millions who had spent the night worrying about her. Meanwhile, Yeonbin remained by her side with unwavering dedication. According to hospital insiders, he barely slept at all and declined offers from staff to rest in the adjacent waiting room. Instead, he spent most of the morning sitting beside her bed, occasionally holding her hand or adjusting her pillows. A quiet tenderness filled the room every time he leaned in to check her temperature or gently brushed aside strands of hair from her forehead. When Ye-jin woke briefly during the afternoon, witnesses reported seeing Yeonbin smile for the first time since the emergency began. A soft, relieved smile that showed just how deeply the fear of losing her had weighed on him. Even as she tried to reassure him that she was just tired, he shook his head and told her he never wanted to see